Des Moines, and all of Central Iowa, welcome to Mac's World Live. Mac's World is your world. Every day we talk about the issues and topics that matter most to you. And as always, it's your voice we want to hear in Mac's World. So join the conversation by calling 515-244-0077. And now, here's the host of Mac's World Live, J. Michael McCoy.
Good afternoon, 6 minutes after 4:06, 28th day of March in the Lord's year 2016. What a weekend, the two police officers being killed, the other two people. I might be just more aware of that kind of stuff because a lot of those funerals end up coming to Hope because we have such a large main room, 2,800. And the other reason is we never say no. The only reason we say no is because of a scheduling. So if there are people out there who are unchurched or not followers, but someone in the family wants to have it in a church, we'll do that. I think right now we have 4 funerals scheduled this week at Hope, maybe 5. And information coming up later on. You'll probably hear this in the news this evening or tomorrow. A young student in the Des Moines metropolitan area was found hanging in his closet Sunday morning by his parents, Easter morning. And a lot of details aren't being put out yet about where in our area. But as soon as that information can be released, we're going to make sure that we spend time talking about teenage suicide and why that's just... I don't know. It's just a topic you got to have. You know, I sat at the lunch table yesterday, the Easter table. We had all the kids over and everybody. And I have a grandson who's kind of at that stage now where he knows everything. You never really grew out of that, did you, Frank?
Actually, it got worse the older I got.
Did it? Well, we've got a grandson that's kind of at that stage. And I had just learned about the suicide. And I pictured myself trying to have a conversation with him about this, and he probably wouldn't be too accepting of it. Oh, that's silly, Grandpa. I'd never do anything like that. You don't have to worry about that. And I think if your kids say that, I think you should be afraid. Very afraid. I think that answer masks the truth deep inside. How you doing? I'm good. How are you? If that person who you just asked if they were good and they said, good, how are you? You know it's not good because you know them. You have a relationship with them. Don't be naive when your son or daughter says, don't worry about that, Dad. That never happened. The answer you should get back from your teen is, well, why would a person do that? And not a rhetorical question. Why are you asking me? What do you think about my life that you think that is something that I should ask or that you should say to me? And that opens up the conversation. And the old adage, you can always come to me and tell me anything. You understand the baloney meter goes wacko on a teenage kid when you tell him that. Oh, honey, listen, I know I'm your parent and I need help you. You can always come to me and tell me anything. No, I can't. But there are people that you can go to. You can go to pastors, you can go to priests, you can go to counselors at school. Find somebody that you trust. And probably not another kid. Probably ought to be an adult. We'll talk about that more this week.
So the moral is be plugged into your kids' lives.
Try to be. You know, my son-in-law and daughter are some of the best parents I've ever seen. And it's tough. It's tough. I mean, they're a church-going family and youth groups and vacations together, and it's still tough. All right, I want to introduce you to a special guest today. Her name is Rita Whitmer. Did I say that right? Okay.
Sure did.
You have to talk. It's radio. Okay. She's shaking her head. Yes, you're fine.
Yes, that's good, Mac.
About 2 weeks ago, we had Tiffany Allison on, and she is someone who advocates for rights and the exposure of domestic abuse. And Rita, I believe you called in.
I did.
And then I think, did we call you back?
You did.
Yeah. And ask you to come in and be a guest because you are... this has kind of been some of your life's work, too.
Yes, it has.
All right. So, first of all, and you don't have to answer anything you don't want to answer, but are you a Des Moines, Central Iowa girl?
I am. I live in Grimes. I moved here about a year and a half ago.
Where'd you come from?
I moved here from Nashville.
Really?
I did.
Why would you come to Grimes, Iowa from Nashville, Tennessee?
Well, the crime was just getting to be too overwhelming.
Yeah.
The traffic was horrific, and I'm old enough that I wanted to have a little bit of peace and quiet. I wanted to write. I have some things I have to write, and
Okay.
so I decided to leave.
Do you have any relatives here or anything?
My grandmother was born and raised here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that was kind of the draw?
That was the only draw. I decided in 2013 I would move, and my friends and family said, "Where are you moving to?" And I said, "I don't know, but I'm packing." So when I was packing, I found a postcard addressed to my grandmother, Miss Emma Hoff, Grimes, Iowa. And I thought she lived in Des Moines all those years ago at the turn of the last century. And I looked up Grimes, and I said, "Oh, well, I'll go to Grimes." So I came here.
What a wonderful way to come here. That's awesome. All right. Now, you've written several things. I'm going to open my packet here. By the way, she was nice enough to bring me a really nice packet of information, which I don't always get about people, so that was nice. I have a book here called God and the Milkman.
That's the final manuscript. That's a final draft of a very brief manuscript that I've written with victims of violence and abuse in mind. I've limited it to 90 pages for a quick read for victims in shelters, so that if there will be a copy in their rooms, they can read it and in a few hours know that there's someone else who has miraculously survived abuse and violence.
Yeah, at the end of the book, Rita writes, God and the Milkman is based on actual events and real people. Some names have been changed. The words and experiences expressed by Carla Cross, a real victim of violence and abuse, actually happened. So you used her name in the book.
Clara Cross, yes.
All right. Excerpts quoted from The Milkman are from her autobiography entitled The Same. The manuscript has not been published. All right. So what makes you... Oh, and the other book is called Angel Talk. And this is a book of what? Tell me, share with me this book.
I wrote Angel Talk.
Kind of a devotional.
It's 22 short stories of miracles and divine intervention I've known in my life. I think that too often people think that miracles are really excluded events, and I believe that they happen to many people all the time, and we say, oh, the most ironic thing happened, or you're not going to believe the weirdest thing happened.
Yeah.
And I just think God and all the angels are watching over us all the time, helping us. They save us at incredible moments of despair and tragedy.
Did I, when you came in, did I give you one of my business cards?
No.
Well, before you leave, I'll give you one of my 6-page business cards, and
Okay.
It's filled with Macisms. And Macism number 3 is my favorite, and it is coincidence. It's God's way of revealing himself. People would always say, oh, what a coinky-dink that I ran into you today, and you just happened to be listening to the radio. No, I think God moves us.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were listening earlier, but when I promoted the show earlier, I said, here's my hope, that there's a woman listening today who is trapped in a horrible domestic abuse relationship. Her husband may be elder at the church or high up in the church. She doesn't feel she has a safe place to turn to. And the kids are so volatile. And so she's just putting up with it. And today at 4:50, when we're done with this show, she will feel empowered to go out and do something.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right, Mac.
All right. So tell me first about the Milkman, God and the Milkman.
God and the Milkman is written in the third person with Clara Cross as the main character. She is visiting with the vicar, and the vicar is visiting from England, and he's come to America to write about miracles that have happened in America since the days that the Pilgrims came to America. So someone tells the vicar that there's this woman, Clara Cross, who has written something about miracles. So the vicar invites her to meet with him, and she begins to tell him why she has miracles, and she starts with her childhood, age 9.
Now, are you Clara Cross?
Yes.
Okay. So this book is really about you.
Yes.
But you named your character
Clara Cross.
Now, I noticed that your middle name is Claire.
That's true.
Any?
My grandmother was named Clara,
Okay.
and I was born on one grandmother's birthday and named after the other one. And Clara Cross was just a name that I've used for many years. I'm a songwriter, and my publishing company was Clara Cross Publishing.
Oh, is that why you were in Nashville?
Uh-huh.
Do you have any famous songs you wrote that I know of?
No, I have some songs, but I've had a couple near misses.
Have
but
ya?
I have a POWMIA song that I've had radio play on. But
Yeah? Good for you. Congratulations. I'm an old
Thank you.
country disc jockey.
Are you?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of country
Well, that's
music in
great.
Nashville. And I'm not going to walk down memory lane here, but one of my favorite shops I used to go to, and I'm assuming it's closed now, but Yoko Ono had a shop in Nashville.
I'm sure it's close. Yeah.
Yeah, and I bought 3 pieces of art from there.
Did you?
2 John Lennons and a who was the jazz artist? Oh, shoot. Well, anyway, I'll think about it later. All right, so we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to hear the story about God and the Milkman and Clara Cross. My guest is Rita Whitmer. She lives in Grimes, Iowa. You're not retired.
No.
No, you still write.
I'm writing and
Songwriting?
Yep. And I'm also working on another book and some other things.
All right. And today we're talking about domestic abuse, which you personally have suffered through. So we'll talk about that when we come back live here on The Truth. Yep, it's The Truth. 99.3.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
21 minutes after 4:21, 28th day of March. By the way, I haven't mentioned Jeb yet. You probably met Jeb. I hope you met Jeb a few weeks ago when he was on the air. But today is Jeb. Today would actually be your first full day on the job, right? Okay. And Jeb comes to us from Grandview College. Steve, the broadcasting teacher over there, is a big fan of mine. I'm a big fan of his. And anyway, we're very fortunate to have Jeb. I think Jeb came to us with one of those coincidences, God's way of revealing himself. Jeb's parents were at our church talking about Dowling High School and mentioned to me that they had a son who wants to be in radio, and I said, well, have him come in and talk to me. And you see, you need to hear this story on your first day, Jeb. Are you listening to me or are you listening to Maddie? I know Maddie's cuter than I am. But Jeb actually walked in here to get a internship.
Oh, yeah.
And we happened to not have a guest that day sitting in where you are, Rita. And I said, well, Jeb, just sit down, and if you want to talk, you can talk. This guy's got more talent in his little finger than I've got in my whole body. He just sits there and starts talking.
What a wonderful story.
Yeah. So we hired him, and now he's going to be with us for as long as God wants him to be here.
Great.
Very glad to have him. And he's being assisted in there by Maddie, and I never get to talk about Maddie because Maddie's the nighttime producer. But she's in there. Now, listen, Jeb, Maddie is a married woman, and she is like a daughter to me. I have known her most of her life, so don't you be thinking about my beloved daughter, Maddie, in there. Gosh darn boys. Icky boys, as Stella Star used to say. All right, Service Legends Truth Text Talk line is open at 515-809-0993. If you'd like to mention anything, Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat, is watching. Also, our phone lines are open, 515-244-0077. Rita Whitmer is our guest. I'm looking at by the way, let me give you in a few minutes, I'll give you contact information for her. So if you want to know how to get a hold of her, then just stand by with a pencil and paper, and before we go into the next break, I'll give you that information. But she has I guess this is a trifold called Understanding Abusers, Helping Victims in Crisis. And then you've written a book, God and the Milkman, and the character in this book, Clara Cross, is you.
That's true.
And God and the Milkman. So lay this out for us. Talk to me about what this is about.
The book is called God and the Milkman because my abuser was a milkman in the 50s. I was 21, having dinner with a couple, friends of mine in Las Cruces, New Mexico in 1971. And the hostess seated the three of us in a booth next to two couples. One of those people was the milkman, and I didn't know at that time that he was with his wife and his friend was with his wife. From the moment that man saw me, he decided that he was going to destroy me, and that was a Saturday night. And on Monday morning at 9 o'clock, he told his banker's secretary, Modell, I've met a girl and I'm going to bring her down. And he began stalking me that day, calling me at the office where I worked in Albuquerque, and the nightmare did not end until he was murdered 25 years later.
Oh, my gosh. Now, why did he... I don't know if you have answers for these questions, but why did he choose you? I mean, did you make him mad? Did you say something?
No, I think probably he'd never seen anyone like me before. I was 6'1". I was wearing boots and Levi's. I had long black hair, and I guess he went down for the count.
Okay.
But he was also a real charmer, and he really felt that any woman, regardless of who they were or what they were, he had access to them, and if he didn't, and if they rejected him, then he was going to force his way into their lives.
So when was the first time the milkman, is that what you want me to refer to him as?
Oh, yes, that's fine.
All right. When was the first time the milkman made his presence known to you?
That night.
What did he do or say?
He didn't talk to me while we were having dinner, but he arranged with the couple that I was with to go horseback riding the next day, which was Sunday. And he told me months later that he didn't sleep all night, and he was at their house at 6 o'clock the next morning.
What about his wife?
No one said that they were married. I didn't know that he was married until 8 months later.
Okay, so your friends kind of set you up on a blind date with him? Is that
They
unfair?
did not know him, but the other man in the booth knew my friends.
Okay.
So that was the connection.
So you went horseback riding.
A large group of us went horseback riding, yes.
Okay. And what do you remember him saying to you, or?
Oh, he was just, flirting and just, always saying jokes about me being tall, et cetera, just constantly coming on. And I wasn't interested in this man. He was older than I was. He had gray hair, and I was 21 years old, and I had a life, and I got in my car that afternoon and drove back to Albuquerque.
Didn't think anything of it.
Thought nothing of it.
My guest is Rita Whitmer. She lives in Grimes, Iowa. She's written several pieces. One is a pamphlet I have in front of me, which you have access to if you'd like it. It's Understanding Abusers, Helping Victims in Crisis, and her own story, God and the Milkman. Frank?
I'm assuming you're referring that he was infatuated with you and he was seeking to try to entice you into some relationship?
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, absolutely, yeah. He made no bones about it.
Okay.
Making lewd jokes, and the whole Sunday day that we were riding, it was quite a nightmare. I had never known anyone like this. My father and my uncles were gentlemen. I was raised on a ranch in Montana, and I'd been in Albuquerque a year, and I was an executive secretary for a corporate president, and I just didn't know that people were like he was.
Vulgar?
Profound, cursing. Oh yes, he was
improper touching.
Oh no, he didn't.
Not that time.
No, he didn't dare put his hands on me.
All right, but your feelings about him changed.
No, they did not change.
I'm sorry.
On Monday morning, he called my office, and he called all day long, and I kept hanging up on him. And at one, I think it was the third telephone call in the morning, he said, "You're from Montana," and he listed all my siblings' names. He knew where they all lived. He knew all the names of their children.
This was long before the internet.
This was 1971.
How did he get all that?
I have no idea. To this day, I never knew how he found that out. He knew everything about my family.
So what did that cause you to do? What? Call the police? Say something to your boss?
It was 1971. There weren't even laws to protect women. There were nothing like domestic violence existed then. I just kept hanging up on him, and he was waiting in the parking lot at 3 o'clock that afternoon and tried to follow me home. And I lost him in the traffic.
Would this fall under classic domestic violence? I mean, this sounds
absolutely.
more like a story of stalking. I mean, domestic to me kind of inferences relationship.
This was stalking, and 6 weeks later, he forced his way into my apartment and beat me and raped me, and that was the beginning of it.
But you never. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You never had any quote-unquote relationship with this person at all. I mean, this was strictly somebody who took a liking to you.
That's right.
So I just consider that an act of stalking, assault, etc. I don't see that as classic domestic violence. Domestic violence to me is somebody that you're in an intimate relationship with, and you're abusing them. That's, to me, domestic violence.
That all came later.
Oh.
Yeah. So how long, Rita Whitmer is my guest today. She lives in Grimes, Iowa. I told you I'd give you her contact information in about 4 minutes. I will do that so you can contact her yourself. So you said how many weeks later that he
6 weeks later.
6 weeks later. Now, what happened between that first day and 6 weeks? Same thing?
Oh, yes.
He followed you, called you?
10, 15 calls every day following me. Oh, I don't know when the man worked.
What, was he really a milkman?
He had been a milkman in the 50s in Dallas,
okay.
Yes.
All right, okay. So, yeah, because we didn't have cell phones back then.
No.
Except J.R. Ewing probably had one. But
Probably.
Nobody else did, right? And so he was just stopping at payphones because there's no caller ID.
Yeah.
Any interaction with him between that time and the 6 weeks?
No.
And then that night happened.
That night, I pulled in my driveway. I had a little house in the valley in Albuquerque, and he pulled in behind me. And I said, "Go away, leave me alone," unlock the door, and shut it in his face, and he put his boot in the door.
Through the door?
Yeah.
Broke in?
Forced his way in and Yeah.
Beat you?
And raped me.
How long did he stay around that first time?
Probably about a half hour.
Okay. So what do you do? I mean, what do you do? Did you call the police? Did you call the sheriff?
It was 1971. There was no one to call. My family was 1,500 miles away in Montana. I was alone. My sister had lived there in Albuquerque when I went there a year before, and she and her family had moved away to another state.
All right, so help me understand. So in 1971, if you had called the police and said, this man just came and beat me and raped me, what would have happened?
Probably nothing, because he was a member of the sheriff's posse.
He was a sheriff deputy?
He was.
Wow. Frank?
You're probably aware of the famous case that happened in, Wichita? The BTK killer?
Yes.
Do you think potentially you was up against some type of a serial
He told me...
killer, potentially?
Yes. I have no doubt in the following 9 years, I am certain that he would have killed anyone that I was close to. As a result, I stayed away from my family and avoided my friends because I knew that anyone that I was close to was in danger.
Well, you mentioned him being a milkman, so obviously he had opportunity to go from door to door and meet women, clearly.
Yes.
And so did this BTK killer, because he was some sort of a city worker who was checking on something from the city, so he had access to going in women's houses, scouting out the house, scouting out the layout, scouting out any kind of security. So, I mean, I'm not trying to draw any similarities to say that, the guy was...
Yes, you are.
Well, I mean, it just seems like to me that maybe potentially this guy was a potential...
Oh, I agree. He did say one night, he was an alcoholic and consumed prodigious amounts of alcohol, but he mumbled for my benefit once that he had murdered someone, and I never responded. I never asked him about it. Number one, I didn't want to know, and number two, I didn't want him to have any credence of his remark and have him think that I was afraid.
Yeah.
But I'm convinced that...
I don't know if this is a good time to ask a question, but give me an answer here, because I've always wondered this. People who are abused themselves often become abusers, or they become an advocate to try to help people from being abused. Is that your experience? I mean...
No, not my experience, but it was his. He was a child of the 30s. He was 21 years older than I was. But his father was apparently quite a violent man. And his father went from being a violent moonshiner person in Texas to the next day he became a Baptist preacher. And I'm certain that someone died one night and the father got religion real quick.
All right, my guest is Rita Whitmer. She's discussing the book that she wrote, God and the Milkman. She's in studio. Your questions are perfectly acceptable. 515-244-0077. God and the Milkman. We're coming back live with Rita next.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee,
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed right or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
.438, 22 minutes before the top of the hour. Salem Radio Network news at the top, and then it's Ask Hank, the Bible Answer Man. 1-888 Ask Hank. Breaking news: the State Patrol has identified the wrong way driver. That's kind of what he's being called right now. The car that hit the police cruiser head on early Sunday morning. His name is Benjamin Edward Berry. He would have been 26 years old today. They have not released any toxology report or anything like that. The family wrote, we know he would never intentionally cause this pain. We hope that the police are able to piece together what happened next, but whatever information they find will not diminish the pain we feel at losing Ben at a young age, nor will it lessen the grief for the families of all those others lost. So there we go. We're getting pieces and pieces. All right, Rita Whitmer is my guest. She wrote a book called God and the Milkman, and the milkman is the man who abused her for so many years. She also has a pamphlet out, Understanding Abusers. Here's her contact information. I'm going to give you her email, WHITMER, WHITMER.RC, Ralph Cat, @gmail.com. And you can contact her through email. All right, so tell me a little bit. So this guy comes in, beats you up, rapes you. Does he continue to persist and bother you?
Oh, absolutely, yes. He stayed away for a week and then began the calls again at the office and followed me home then again. He knew where I lived then.
Yeah.
And once again, yes. Then I was terrified, absolutely terrified of being beaten again. And the rape, of course, always leaves a hole in anyone's soul. And I became a classic victim of rape and violence.
Which means what? Classic victim.
Which means that fear governs everything you do then. And,
okay.
And I knew that I would not be away. That I would be with this person and his power and his cruelty until the day came when I could get away.
Frank?
Going back to the question I asked at the end of last hour about what you do as an abused person, you go on to try to help people or you become one yourself. I've heard abusers say, who are victims of violent abuse themselves, often say they want someone else to feel the abject helplessness that they felt as an abuse victim. They want to perpetrate that on someone else so someone else knows how they felt.
I agree. I'm certain that that's the case with him. That wasn't with me as a victim. I had a wonderful parents. My aunts and uncles were wonderful. My grandparents, I knew both sets of my grandparents. I did not know that men were like this. But I do know that his history with his family, he was from a large family, and he was good-looking and charming and funny. And I believe that he suffered terribly at the hands of his siblings. And I know that he suffered at the hands of his father.
All right, so when was the next time you then encountered him? Does it just go on and on and on and on?
Oh, yes.
All right, now you told me earlier something about a car accident.
Yes, he of course, because I guess I was different looking and I was young, he actually did divorce his wife. I didn't know until 8 months later that he was married and had 2 children. I also didn't know that he had been married before, and he had 2 sons and an ex-wife in Dallas. By a fluke of fate, we after the divorce, after his divorce, then he wanted me to move into the country home with him in Las Cruces, and I refused. I had my own apartment, but he called me all the time, every day, and at the office many times. I mean, he really kept the hooks in. He wasn't going to let this one go.
And he was a charmer.
Oh, yeah. But he wasn't that charming. When you've been raped and beaten, nothing's charming. Nobody is good looking.
Right.
But by a fluke of fate, his 14-year-old daughter in Dallas became pregnant, and we drove to Dallas and were gone 2 weeks. And
so now you were comfortable being around him?
No, I was never comfortable. I was trapped, and I had no way to get away.
All right.
So until I could understand what was happening, and this is where victims of violence and abuse, you have to learn what to do in situations like this. In 1971, I had no alternatives and no help. So I really...
You said he was a deputy sheriff.
He was a member of the sheriff's posse. Absolutely. So he was in his comfort zone abusing women, and especially this young woman that he had violently...
He was infatuated with.
Yes. So we were gone 2 weeks in Dallas, and when we came back, he left me at my home and drove back to his home in the country. And when I unlocked the door, there was nothing of mine in this house, in this 2-bedroom house.
And this was your house?
This was my house. I rented it, and the landlady lived next door. She was old and deaf, and I beat on the windows. She finally came to the door and said, "Well, you were gone for so long, I decided that you must have moved out." And she hired someone to move everything that I owned into a spare room in her home. It was in paper sacks, and I was trapped again. I had no place to go. She'd rented the place, so the only way that I could have a place to live was with him in the country, and that's how I came to live with him in the country.
All right. Rita Whitmer is my guest. Again, you can reach her at whitmer.rc. That's WHITMER.RC at gmail.com. Her book, God and the Milkman, is available. Also, she has a pamphlet, Understanding Abusers, helping victims in crisis. Tell me about the car accident.
The car accident happened 2 years after, 73, a year and a half after I was in the country. I had tried to escape from him many times after living with him in the country. His brutality was absolutely not believable. And so I even quit my job one Friday and rushed home to Montana. And he flew back to Montana. Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
I mean, this is obviously, you may not be able to say this with any definitive
No.
Did he beat you just for kicks, or was he trying to beat you into submission of love? In a roundabout way, this was his way of forcing you to love him.
No, this was not a love situation. This was ego.
Well, on his part, did he think, and I know this is you putting yourself into his mind, but was he just doing this because he liked to hurt you, or was he actually trying to think that somehow this was his way of making you love him?
No, this was not his way of making me love him. I realize now that he had quite a history of abusing women, and he was an alcoholic and a very violent man when he was drinking, and he was violent when he wasn't drinking.
All right, so the car accident.
So the car accident, I finally said, after having this nightmare relationship for 3.5 years, I said, I've done everything except marry you. We're getting married on Sunday. Tell me where to be. He made the arrangements. We got married on Sunday, and 5 weeks later, I was driving to work. I was taking care of business one Tuesday morning, December 10th, 1974. Drove down the 4-lane highway, and there was a station wagon with an elderly woman in it, stalled at an intersection, and she had no emergency signals on, and cars had been zooming around her for over 5 minutes, the people at the gas station said. And I was behind a pickup truck, and the pickup truck swerved into the right lane to keep from hitting her when he realized she wasn't turning, and exposed her, and I hit her doing 75 miles an hour.
Oh, my.
The bolts holding the seat of my car broke, and I was crushed over the steering wheel. I broke the windshield.
No seatbelts back then.
No, back then, no seatbelts. I broke the windshield with my head, and my right hand was severed, and I was trapped in the car for almost 2 hours.
All right, we're going to finish that story up when we come back. Rita Whitmer is our guest live here on The Truth. Thanks for listening.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common, everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
10 minutes before the top of the hour, Hank, the Bible Answer Man, 1-888-ASK-HANK. Rita Whitmer is our guest today. Her email address is Whitmer, WHITMER.RC@gmail.com. So you're in this car accident. You're in intensive care, I think you said 8 weeks?
I was in intensive care almost 5 weeks.
5 weeks. And when you got out, did he come and see you in the hospital?
Yes, he definitely came and saw me in the hospital. He burned the house 3 days after, and didn't appreciate the sight of me in the condition I was, and tried 3 different times in ICU to murder me.
In ICU?
In ICU.
And this was the time that, because we talked about this earlier, that you kind of surrendered your life to God.
I did. The miracle started the second of impact in the car wreck. The best man at our very small marriage ceremony came upon the scene of the car wreck, recognized my car, rushed over. I'd been trapped for nearly 2 hours. Reached in, broke the steering wheel with his bare hands, and lifted me out. And that's how they were able to even get me in the ambulance.
And you were dead on arrival at the hospital.
I was.
And they resuscitated you back.
That's the youth.
Or as you would say, God saved your life.
God definitely left me here, yes.
And there were other times in your life in which God has saved you from probably a foreknown death.
Yes, there have been.
Can you tell me about any of those? Did they all involve the milkman?
No, my first experience was when I was 9 years old in Montana. I was... my siblings and I went to a one-room schoolhouse, and it was December. And the school teacher became very angry at me for whatever reason and banished me into a blizzard.
Oh my!
And it was like 15 below zero, and I was supposed to walk home in this terrible blizzard a mile to the ranch. And I, of course, succumbed to the cold. And I remember falling under the sagebrush. And when I woke up, I was standing at the bottom of the creek bank looking up at the ranch. And I know that God and the angels woke me and led me through the blizzard, yes.
Now, how long, eventually, this man that you call the milkman that you ended up marrying, he died. Or, well, did you divorce or did he die? I mean, I know he died, but...
Yes, well, I was terribly, terribly injured. I had terrible, horrible injuries. And on my 26th birthday, a year after the car wreck, I had my 25th birthday in ICU, and 1 year later, he beat me in front of 30 people at a holiday home party and beat me unmercifully, and not one single person lifted a finger. And that was the day that I swore I would divorce him the first chance I got.
And how much longer until you divorced him?
3 months later.
Okay. What happened to him? What became of him?
He did not relinquish interest in me until 18 years later.
Oh, my.
And I never stopped looking over my shoulder, and I did not hear from him about him for 8 years until I got a telephone call in 1996 from his brother-in-law in Texas, and said that he had been murdered by his bride of 6 months.
So he, God may be a female after all, huh?
I don't think so, but his murderer sure was.
And did she pay for that?
She did. She shot him with a pistol that he had stolen from my brother at the farm 21 years before.
Wow.
And we found out after this woman was supposed to go to court, they finally gave her a 10-year deferred sentence, but I learned later that the DA in Dallas County was being investigated for wrongful suits that he'd filed and convictions. And even though they gave her 10 years deferred, they got her on some minor traffic something or other or something, and she did 10 years.
Oh, wow. Wow.
A tragic story.
Yeah.
Because she killed him in self-defense.
And did you ever get to meet her or talk to her?
No, I didn't know she existed until the day that I heard that he was dead.
Okay. And so you've spent the rest of your life helping people understand abusers, victims in crisis. That's one of the titles of your pamphlet, understanding abusers, helping victims in crisis. What's the most important thing you want a woman to hear out there who's in a situation now that they feel they're trapped in, they have no place to go? He puts on this wonderful front. He might even be a hot dog in his church, maybe an elder. Nobody's going to listen to her. And she's listened to you now today, and she's empowered because she relates to your story. What advice do you give her?
The advice that I give her is she has got to realize that if a man or a woman, and there are women abusers, there are men who are victims, children are victims. If any human being shouts at someone, if anyone has an intent to harm or make someone suffer or destroy their life or their is wrong, and they need to run. But so many people today don't make good decisions. They don't trust themselves. And I am here only because God saw fit to leave me here over and over. And I really believe that women and men have got to be responsible for their lives. They have to decide that they're valuable, that they're important, they have contributions, they have goals of their souls, and they have a right to live those dreams. God is with us. He is with every one of us, sitting on our shoulders. I have been pulled from death in a second, and every victim must remember that is the case for them as well. God is watching. He is there, and He will help you. But it takes courage. You have to be strong.
What would you have done differently back in 71? I mean, you said the authorities weren't going to listen to you. Would you have taken it upon yourself to get rid of this man?
I would have moved home to Montana.
Yeah.
I would have been around family, people who loved me, people that would have known. I would have told someone immediately, and I would have moved back to Montana where I was loved.
All right, Rita Whitmer, I sure appreciate you coming in and sharing your experience with us. Again, you can reach Rita at WHITMER, Whitmer.rc@gmail.com. And I'm assuming you would speak to groups or sit down with someone one-on-one?
Oh, yes. I absolutely would. I have not had an opportunity to help victims the way that I want to, and that's what I'm doing now here in Grimes. I hope that I can. I've spoken to various people who are helping, and I really think that this message of God's help and support and rescue is there. We have to believe that, and I want to say that to folks everywhere.
All right. If you want to get a hold of Rita, you didn't get her email address or anything, just contact me, and I'll make sure you can get a hold of her. Whatever we need to do, we need to end domestic abuse. It's unacceptable. All right. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, do me a favor. Go home. Pray for somebody you need to forgive. And remember, as you forgive, you shall be forgiven. I'll see you at church.